Monday night, and you know what that means. The Jersey First Television Network proudly brings to you the latest edition of Real Talk. And certainly, ladies and gentlemen, I am the generational talent in Garden State Media and your leader for fearless, trustworthy opinion journalism. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. It is me, Fernando Uribe. Happy March, everyone. Again, daylight savings time is this Sunday. I don't know about you. I'm looking forward to longer sunshine in our days and, of course, some warmer temperatures after this horrible winter we've had. And again, I want to thank you all for tuning in from wherever and however you may be doing so on all of your social media platforms. And we appreciate you making this a part of your Monday night viewing. Folks, I can't say it enough. It takes 5 seconds to like, comment, and share tonight's episode here of Real Talk, whether you like us on Facebook. Again, if you follow us on Instagram and X, and also if you subscribe to us on YouTube, please do all that. And of course, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download Jersey First, and you'll be up to date on all the great content that we bring you every single week via the Jersey First Television Network. Folks, and I say it all the time, I'm proud to be leading the way here, educating and advocating for the residents here in the great state of New Jersey. And folks, again, nobody does it better than Jersey First TV. Brand new episodes of Real Talk air every Monday night live. Of course, check your local listings for start times here on the East Coast and from wherever you're watching throughout the good old US of A. Folks, a jam-packed show tonight. Folks, you don't want to miss it. You definitely want to make sure you share the content this evening. I have a lot to say during final thoughts, as you can see there. Happy to update the collage. Certainly nice to add useless Hoboken Councilman Joe Quintero. Again, folks, if you're ever near him or he's in your house, lock that liquor cabinet. Trust me, you don't want Joe Quintero anywhere near your liquor supply. But again, we'll be talking about, obviously, some of the people here on this collage. But more importantly, after last week's what I think was historic State of the Union address by the President of the United States, well, leave it to useless journalists like, well, you know what I'm talking about, right? Yep, folks, it's never fails. Uncle Dave, David Cruz, with another pretty mediocre breakdown of the State of the Union, which I thought was very inspiring for tons of reasons that I'll lay out later. But of course, leave it to Uncle Dave and some of the clowns he brings on his show to opine about what I think was a great State of the Union compared to their opinion, which they think was lackluster. Folks, again, I'm here to bring you the facts. And I'll never lie to you, unlike Uncle Dave on his own media brand. But we don't do that here on this show, folks. So a little bit more on Uncle Dave during final thoughts. You definitely want to stick around for that. Folks, certainly no shortage of clowns last week during the State of the Union. Yes, you see here Representatives Rashida Tlaib and Ilhan Omar. We'll talk more about them later because they were pretty good to laugh at last week during the State of the Union. And quite frankly, just shows you how partisan our politics have become when you can't even stand up for nonpartisan things during a State of the Union address. So more on that during final thoughts. Folks, you definitely don't want to miss out on that. Once again, I want to thank everyone for the outstanding traffic during February of this year. Folks, 90,000 plus views and counting. Nothing boosted. All organic, no paid ads, nothing like that. Folks, I'm not even vaccinated. So you think I'm going to boost anything? You're out of your mind. So trust me when I tell you, I'm thankful to all of you, and I'm deeply humbled by your support. And you know I'm not the most humble guy around, folks. But I'm thankful and humble for all your support in continuing to make Real Talk a success here on Jersey First TV. Great traffic during the month of February. More on that later, so you definitely want to stick around for that. Also, folks, kind of a jam-packed, special comment this week here. Had the privilege of attending the Reagan Day brunch sponsored by the Middlesex County Republican Women's Club. I was a speaker there. I'll tell you what, my experience was so special this past Saturday. So again, I want to send a shout out to them. And folks, it is March, so it's Women's History Month. But you know what? Next week, as a matter of fact, next Sunday is International Women's Day. So in advance, I want to send a shout out to all the women out there and wish them a very happy International Women's Day. And if you've ever seen a woman drive, you know why this background is so special on International Women's Day. Folks, more on that later in the broadcast. You want to stick around for that. And certainly, folks, again, a new segment this week. Yeah, shout outs. This week, shout out to the Pinnacle and my main man there, the Dean, Dante Lupo, out to celebrate at one of our favorite restaurants, Fornos of Spain. give a little bit of a review of this outstanding venue in the Ironbound section of Newark and why, folks, when you want to go out for dinner, you want to go to Fornos of Spain. And of course, during the birthday weekend, we definitely got to check out another great venue here locally, and that's Birch in Hoboken. Shout out to the manager, Adam, there, getting us in there. Obviously, great atmosphere. I'll tell you why Birch, folks, should be one of your destinations every weekend if you're visiting Hoboken nightlife. So you definitely want to stick around for that later on in the program. And certainly, folks, another shout out earlier today, folks, again, your favorite broadcast journalist and educator, certainly always busy. Want to thank the Hudson County STEM Showcase for inviting me for the third consecutive year to be a judge during the STEM Showcase. And folks, it was a privilege to be surrounded by so many outstanding and brilliant students during the STEM Showcase at the Liberty Science Center. And I'll talk more about that later on in the program, folks. Definitely, you don't want to miss out on that. So again, jam-packed show. Like, comment, and share, folks. It helps the show grow and really helps show your support for fearless independent media, courtesy of Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Now, folks, as you all know, I'm one of the few opinion journalists out there in New Jersey that is a staunch Second Amendment advocate. And I believe in responsible gun ownership. But I'll tell you, folks, somebody we can all learn from today. He's an outstanding Second Amendment advocate, and he's also a freelance journalist, a great one at that, folks. He's my good friend, John Petrolino, joining us live tonight on Real Talk. John, welcome to Real Talk, sir.
Hey, Fernando, how are you today? Hello to everyone out there in the Garden State, fellow patriots, and those beyond the iron wall and the iron curtain that keeps us contained here in an abysmal communist socialist land. Hello, everyone.
I couldn't say it any better, brother. Well done there. And folks, again, we'll get into a lot of John's great content in a minute here. But John, obviously, we talked before we went on the air tonight, and certainly if you've caught my brand here, I'm as staunch a Second Amendment advocate as there is out there. But, living in New Jersey, we thought after 8 years of Phil Murphy and how totalitarian and really draconian he governed New Jersey, especially with an awful attorney general like Matt Plotkin. By the way, I mean, is it any surprise that the guy couldn't get work anywhere? He had to start his own law firm because nobody was going to hire him. But for the last 8 years, let's be fair, whether it was Phil Murphy or more specifically Attorney General Matt Plotkin, I mean, he made it as awful, as inconvenient, and really made the process a lot more laborious and necessary for law-abiding New Jerseyans to protect themselves. Again, I am as staunch a defender of the police as there is. But folks, again, nothing wrong with defending your home, your family, and your property. But, owning a firearm and owning it responsibly just seems to be, you jump into too many hurdles here in New Jersey. Jen, I know you are a big advocate in what you do. So share with our audience today why this cause is so important to you, and B, really the advocacy work you continue to do.
So I got involved in firearms. I don't want to say I've been involved with them my entire life, but essentially since I was a youth, and that was being exposed to them, whether it was through BB guns or hunting, and then through the Boy Scouts. And when I became an adult, I got involved in, purchasing my own handguns and doing training, and things kind of just snowballed out of control. But part of that journey that you go through in New Jersey is learning about the New Jersey gun laws. And those of you who are listening in on this that have ever tried to purchase a firearm or are a firearm owner or looked into the process know that there are so many hoops and hurdles to jump through. So for me, it's very simple. The Second Amendment is a stopgap to other people or entities that wish to impose their will on others. And whether that's on a one-on-one basis and you want to self-defend and you need a firearm for self-defense purposes, or if you're dealing with a government that's tyrannical. And if you look at, and I was very apolitical, growing up. It wasn't like I had any leanings or anything like that, but I had an idea about fundamental liberties. I had an idea about what was important. And the more and more I learned about it, I figured out that this is the most important right that we have, because if this right gets taken away, then all of the other rights can be taken away in turn. And if you look at all of the totalitarian regimes that have gone on across the world, across history, every single one of them involved some level of disarmament of the population. And today is no different. And we're just dealing with a different level of disarmament. We're dealing with a different level of tyranny. And New Jersey is kind of unique in that culturally, the Second Amendment and firearm ownership and everything about that has been stifled for many, many decades. And if we could go back to, you could really take this back to Prohibition era, but if we want to bring it to a more modern time, and I say modern time, it's still, you're looking at 1968, 1969, and into the early 70s. That's when a lot of the New Jersey permitting laws kicked in and or changed in the state. Now, New Jersey's had permit to purchase for handguns going back many, many years. And I remember my father was telling me that when he was a youth, and this was something that you could do prior to the federal law change, he filled out his paperwork to get a pistol purchaser permit in New Jersey as a child, a young teen, and bought his first handgun. The laws changed, and by the early 70s, the carry of firearms basically became something that only went to the politically connected and or retired police. And so now if you fast forward to present date, if you're at let's say 1972, for example, to present date, that was kind of a long time ago. So the people that actually realized liberty and freedom prior to that are kind of dying off. That whole demographic of people that would have remembered the days of yore would, would have already died. So to me, this liberty is very important.
Well said there, John. Again, folks, if you're just joining us live right now, it is, again, a little after 7 o'clock here on the East Coast. My guest tonight is Second Amendment advocate and journalist John Petrolino, joining us live here on Real Talk. Folks, like, comment, and share. It only takes a few seconds to show your support for fearless, independent journalism, courtesy of Real Talk here on Jersey First TV. John, I kind of noticed, okay, you were breaking up a little bit. You're not as pixelated anymore, but you keep cutting in and out. Not sure if you're on a good internet stream or good Wi-Fi. Not sure. Are you? What device?
I'm not on Wi-Fi, so this is actually the best connection that I've got. So unfortunately, it's what we have in suburban Howell, New Jersey.
Okay, just making sure. It's
yeah.
it's a little fake, cutting in and out. I just want to make sure that if you weren't okay, it's getting a little better now. So
Okay.
it was just a little fuzzy before. I just want to make sure that it's not I'm not sure if you want to maybe log out, log back in again. I'm not sure. It's still a little fuzzy. Want to make sure you have a crisp broadcast for you. Do you mind doing that for a second?
Yep, I could do that. That's cool.
Yep, yeah.
Sure.
And just come back on again. We appreciate it. Just want to make sure. Want to give you the best. There you go. All right, we'll get John Petrolino back on there, folks. Again, it's technology, folks. Nothing you can do about it. You got to sort of work within the times, as they say. Gonna make sure I get him back on here. Folks, again, it is a little after 7:10 here on the East Coast here on today, the 2nd of March in 2026. Great month, great group of guests coming up here this month here during the month of March here. Let's get back to our first guest here in the month of March. And all right, a little bit better. Awesome. Again, folks, if you're just joining us live, it is John Petrolino, Second Amendment advocate and journalist, joins us tonight here on Real Talk. Again, John, appreciate your time this evening. Really great summation there in the sense of how important the Second Amendment is. I mean, again, I always look at, the Bill of Rights obviously is certainly one of the most historic parts of a document in human history. And certainly, we look at the Bill of Rights, we look at the First Amendment, obviously the very first one, freedom of speech. Obviously, I think, we're sort of exercising that right now as we're talking here tonight. But again, you said it perfectly. I mean, being able to defend yourself, being able to defend your property, your person, your family, your livelihood. I mean, certainly, as we celebrate 250 years this summer in the birth of our republic, we look back to the founders and we look back to the framers in writing the Constitution and writing the Bill of Rights and seeing, these brilliant men and what they thought this country could become and what it has become. Now, I'm sure there are moments that the framers and founders are rolling in their graves right now based on like just New Jersey alone and what's happened here. But there's no question that responsible gun ownership cannot be denied. I know that certain states have tried to do that. And isn't it always interesting, John, when I think of um, certainly progressives, the left, and whether it's in New Jersey and Trenton, our state capital, or across the country, how they get very sort of, the selective moral outrage about firearms is always rich to me. And yes, there's no question that seeing mass shootings is a tragedy. No one wants to see that. If you want to have a debate or a conversation, as I tell people, about certain type of weaponry and the access to it, we can have that conversation. But understand something. You can correct me if I'm wrong here, but the large majority of gun violence that happens in this country, John, and more so when the left cries about, oh, we need more gun control, we need stricter gun laws, folks, the majority of gun violence in this country, A, happens with illegal guns, and B, with handguns. It's not rifles or semi-automatic weapons. It's with illegal handguns. So I'm always mystified, John, when I see states like California, Illinois, Pennsylvania, even New Jersey and New York that cry about, oh, well, you know what, our gun control laws work. No, they don't. Gun violence is still a serious problem in just 4 states that I named. Is that fair to say?
It is. And if you look at the numbers, and the problem with the numbers is, first of all, you want to present these numbers to people that are in the anti-gun camp, that are either left of center, progressive, however you want to describe them. They don't care. They don't care about the actual statistics. None of that really matters to them. Facts don't matter. All that matters is emotions and feelings. So that's the first thing that we need to get out of the way. But I'll give you some numbers. You're looking at firearm deaths, and the majority of deaths due to firearms is attributed to people who complete suicide. And you're looking at numbers over 50% upwards to 66%, depending on the year. So generally speaking, 2/3 of all of the deaths that you're looking at from firearms are self-inflicted. Now, if we take it a step further after that, the majority of the so-called gun violence or violence committed with firearms is gang related and drug related. And most of that's going to be gang on gang warfare. Everything else that you're seeing, it's just not as much of an issue. So the numbers get stacked and almost used against us. But when we try to bring that forward and say, hey, most of this is not that it's irrelevant, but what problem are we trying to solve here? If you're trying to solve a suicide problem, maybe we should be asking, why do so many people want to end their lives? And I think that's a relevant question. And if you look at a state like New Jersey versus a state like New Hampshire, 9/10 of the deaths due to firearms are due to suicide. So then the anti-gun groups say, look, you have all of these suicides, and they're awful laws in New Hampshire that let people have firearms has led to, 90% of the deaths being due to completed suicide. But step back and think about that for a second. The people in New Hampshire are more inclined to use a firearm on themselves than they are against their fellow man. So the issues that we have are societal issues that go beyond just violence. Why would people want to end their lives, number one? And then number two, look at a state like New Hampshire where their laws are very liberal in a sense of allowing you to have freedom and allowing to carry firearms and own firearms and things like that. And yet the gun violence is just not there.
Well said there. Folks, again, if you just joined us live right now, it's a little after 7:20 here on the East Coast, and my guest tonight is Second Amendment advocate and journalist John Petrolino, joining us live right here. Folks, again, like, comment, and share your support for fearless independent journalism. That's right, courtesy of Real Talk right here with Jersey First TV. Again, folks, it helps the show grow. It's as simple as that here on the 2nd of March in 2026. John, as I said earlier in the broadcast, I think about, wasting taxpayer dollars. I mean, that's a good way to describe the last attorney general we had, Matt Plotkin, here under the 2 terms of Governor Phil Murphy. I mean, Matt Plotkin lives in this bubble. And what bothers me the most, I mean, honestly, a lot of things bother me about attorneys, but I would say attorneys like Matt Plotkin just sort of remind me, like, there are just people, John, that are just really book smart, but they're dumb as shit, I think, in the real world. And for people that went to law school, took con law, and by the way, again, I'm not saying I'm an attorney, but I remember taking constitutional law in grad school at Rutgers University. And I, shout out to my grad school professor, Dr. Elizabeth Hull at Rutgers Newark. And I took con law. She taught a great class. And fortunately, I got an A. And I remember somewhere along those lines, John, whether it was about preserving our sovereignty here, the importance of borders, I think our founders understood the importance of borders. And I think about as the Second Amendment reads, it's always interesting to me. It's like, I don't think it's a conservative or liberal. I never understand this dynamic about, again, and I'm not an English professor, but when I read a sentence and I see commas, I just think first and foremost, these are separate thoughts. And when I read a sentence, like the way the Second Amendment is written, no, it's not about, well, it's what the founders felt was necessary back then. It doesn't apply now. Like, who says this? So to me, I'm always mystified when I talk with my liberal friends, especially attorneys who are always such, strict gun control advocates. And, well, gun violence is at all-time high, and oh my goodness, and the cause of major gun violence is white men and this and that. And I'm like, folks, believe it or not, for as much as the left talks about ICE agents killing Americans, trans people have killed more Americans with guns than ICE agents, for God's sakes. But again, that's a conversation for another day. But John, when you talk to people in your tours, and certainly with what you do with your brand, what's the best argument, even against the most staunch liberal, even whether they're an attorney or a gun control activist? What's the easiest way, if there is one, to sort of shut them down?
So I don't know if there is a way to shut them down, right? So when you're talking to someone about these elements and these things, and they start shooting back these comments, I guess the most distilled thing that you could say is, this is a fundamental right that has been many times upheld by the U.S. Supreme Court, dating back to the Heller decision, then the McDonald decision. Catano kind of upheld, right to arms, and most recently on what affirmed our rights was the New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin decision. And all of these decisions said that we have individual rights to keep and bear arms. So if somebody is unhappy with this, and they can throw statistics at us, they can throw whatever thoughts, feelings, I don't care what it is. Their argument is got to be, then you just need to change the Constitution. Now, I'm not saying that I want to see that, but your argument, their argument should be, your beef is with the Constitution. This is a right, and it's supposed to be respected like all the other rights, just like the First Amendment. Lord knows that we got to hold near and dear our Fourth, Fifth, and our Sixth Amendment rights when it comes to being secure and our persons, our papers, and not self-incriminating, and having a right to an attorney. All of these rights are sacred to us. So if you have a problem with firearms, you just want to abolish that right. And the way to do that is to change the Constitution, not to create silly, stupid laws, not to sit here and make it difficult for people to buy firearms, because at the end of the day, this is a civil liberty. You could say you don't like it. You don't like liberties. That's fine. Make that statement, make that case. But that's the case to make, not that we need to ban so-called assault weapons. You just want to abolish the Second Amendment. That's, I guess, the most tinctured way to look at this topic.
Absolutely. I mean, listen, without question, again, as I said earlier, if you want to have a conversation about assault weapons, I don't, when I say you, I don't mean you, I mean this generically out there to everybody. We have a conversation about assault weapons. Sure, we can have that conversation. But again, I sort of go back to just the most basic of stats that the majority of gun violence, A, is committed with illegal handguns. And B, I mean, as you said, it's really almost gang related violence or drug related violence. I mean, and that's just the truth. I mean, and don't even get me started about racial disparities when people talk about, well, gun violence and, white supremacists with guns is a problem. Well, folks, you ever seen Chicago on a weekend? It's black on black crime on steroids. And, it's gun violence galore there. But there never seems to be that reference out there. John, it just seems like vilifying, especially law abiding responsible gun owners seems to be, the modus operandi for one political ideology, and in some cases, one political party. And quite frankly, I think, as someone who's a responsible advocate myself, like I'm tired of it. It just seems exhausting. I tell people all the time on this show, and when I go speak on panels, I'm like, get new material because it's getting old here. I mean, you're barking up the wrong tree with talking points.
Yep.
That are just not factually based. They're in your feelings. And God, listen, if I want an emotional response, I'll talk to one of my exes or one of my new girlfriend or whatever. But if I want to talk about facts when it comes to responsible gun ownership, responsible gun owners are not the problem in this country. It's illegal handguns, illegal guns flooding into our streets, into, by the way, gun-free zones, which, as we all know, criminals don't follow laws.
No, they don't. And the last time I looked at these statistics, Fernando, and it's been a while, but I try to watch them as closely as I can through the FBI Uniform Crime Reporting Database. And at one point, most generally speaking, there are more people killed and murdered by blunt force trauma, like, being beat with a hammer. I think specifically even a hammer. More people killed by hammers than they are by all rifles, and that includes rifles that are the scary semi-automatic so-called assault weapons, as well as bolt action or pump action rifles, or all the other different styles of rifles that are out there. You're talking about minuscule numbers of people that have firearms that are long guns used against them, nevertheless semi-automatic firearms. So you are correct when you say that the handgun is absolutely the weapon of choice, and it's also been affirmed by the Supreme Court specifically that the handgun is protected. Now, they're trying to do stuff to change that. They're trying to outlaw different classes of handguns and say they're easily to convert to machine guns. And Matthew Platkin, he went off the rail about the reset triggers, the forced reset triggers last year. And I remember I was on a press call with them, which, by the way, another colleague of mine who does not have press credentials tried to get on that call, and they denied him being able to access it, even though he also is a journalist. He's just not a credentialed journalist. So not only do they like to infringe upon the Second Amendment right, the government likes to infringe on the First Amendment right. Yeah. So they're going to gatekeep who can and cannot enter these events. Well, I got in and I got a couple of questions out. And if you go to my YouTube page, it's youtube.com/@thepenpatriot, which I don't have a lot of content on my YouTube page. Like, I'm not a podcaster, I'm not a YouTuber, but I got some videos up there, interviews that I do to support editorial. You'll see that there's a clip of me going a couple of rounds with Matthew Platkin, and he got big mad when I asked my follow-up question, and definitely broke down because he could not explain the constitutionality behind what he was arguing. And he got very upset. His feelings were definitely hurt. But that's what you see. It's this emotional response, and you bring to them the actual statute and say, this is what the law says. Forget it. And that's the law. Never mind the Constitution and everything else. Like, this is in the statute. So it's in black and white. So they want to ignore that too.
I mean, listen, for a beta male like Matt Plotkin to be easily triggered and offended, I mean, the guy is tissue soft. I mean, you just sort of proved that right there for sure. Folks, it's 7:30 exactly here on the East Coast. My guest tonight is John Petrolino, staunch Second Amendment advocate and journalist joining us here live on Real Talk. Folks, again, like, comment, and share. It really helps the show grow and show your support for fearless independent media here with Real Talk on Jersey First TV. Let's switch gears here for a second, John. I caught a great interview you did with Jay Costa
Oh, sure. Okay.
about sensitive places. And just for our audience that isn't familiar with the term and quite frankly, case law that's either in litigation right now, what is the status of sensitive places here in New Jersey? And quite frankly, what is the litigation right now that's ongoing, if any, about making sure that there can be some modifications to it? But first and foremost, if you just help us define sensitive places and quite frankly, why it's in the news cycle.
Okay, so when the Supreme Court decision came out in New York State Rifle Pistol Association versus Bruin, that was the removal of subjective standards for everyone across the country to be able to get permits to carry. Essentially, the Supreme Court said that the peasants shall be allowed to carry their pitchforks. That's what they said. Immediately following that decision, the Attorney General, Matthew Platkin, made an announcement that New Jersey will no longer be enforcing the justifiable need standard in the state, and then they would start issuing permits to carry. That was in June. I said by August, I want to say I got my first couple on the record permits that were issued. So there might have been some earlier, but these were people that were willing to go on the record about it. What happened quickly after all of this was the New Jersey legislature started crafting a law to make the carry laws in New Jersey so incredibly difficult to navigate, make it so basically you can't carry anywhere. So actually, prior to Bruin, those people that had permits to carry, which were the politically connected and retired police officers, they actually had robust carry rights. They were pretty good in New Jersey. The law that was signed by Governor Murphy in December of 2022 basically outlined 25 specific so-called sensitive locations. And these are locations that you can't carry a firearm. I'm not going to say some of them make sense because most of them don't make sense. If you want to look at the federal law and comparison, maybe some of that is covered by federal law. But be that as it may, they came up with 25 locations, and they include things like zoos, town, county, state parks, including state forests, schools, which were already against a lot of carry a firearm in schools, establishments that serve alcohol. You weren't able to carry a firearm in your car. And also one of the provisions that they had was something that we call the vampire rule. The vampire rule is saying that you're not allowed to carry a firearm on any public property unless you have affirmative permission to do so. So that includes private property open to the public. So if you're going to go to the grocery store, you need to know what their policy is on whether or not you can or can't carry a firearm there. Now, luckily, that portion of the law has been enjoined, and that's been enjoined since, I believe, the temporary restraining order that happened in January of 2023. So as soon as this law was signed, within seconds, there was 2 lawsuits launched. One of them with the Association of New Jersey Rifle Pistol Clubs, ANJRPC, was the associational plaintiff there, and that's a case that's called the Siegel case. And then there's another case, is the Coons case. It's with Ronald Coons, Nick Audio, and a bunch of other patriots. And that their associational plaintiffs are Firearms Policy Coalition, Second Amendment Foundation, CNJFO, NJ2AS, a couple other groups, right? So basically, these lawsuits challenge that. So we're going to fast forward to what you were talking about. This is winding its way through the court system since 2022, since December of 2022. And just recently, on February 11th, there was what's called an en banc hearing, which was the entire court of the Third Circuit Court of Appeals. It meets in Philadelphia, right across the street from the Liberty Bell, ironically, right by Independence Hall. And the full court of all the judges that are the active senior judges in the court heard the case, because that case was heard on preliminary injunction in 2023, and we did not get an opinion on that until, like, I want to say September of last year. So it was almost 2 full years that they waited to give us an opinion on this preliminary injunction. But in the meantime, they stayed a good portion of a preliminary injunction that was done in the district court level. So in the district court level, we had a 280-page opinion that was phenomenal, and it cut up a lot of these sensitive places. The circuit court, the Third Circuit Court of Appeals, basically upheld quite a bit of that, and now there was just an en banc hearing. So that en banc hearing, we should get an opinion about that, hopefully, I'm going to say after the summer, because we should hear from a Supreme Court case. We should get an opinion in the Wolford case that deals with this vampire rule, which is the private property open to the public, such as gas stations, supermarkets, and things like that. So the state of carry in New Jersey right now is you can carry a firearm. There are places you can do it. You just have to be very careful, and you need to know the law, what has been enjoined and what hasn't been enjoined. And navigating that could be very difficult, but there's resources out there that you can, get some of that information. But essentially, if you want to go to an Applebee's, you can't even go to an Applebee's armed because they serve alcohol there.
Well, again, it's about being careful, as they say, right, in New Jersey, and
Right.
it's even punitive too, folks. Again, it's 7:40 here on the East Coast. My guest tonight is Second Amendment advocate and journalist John Petrolino. Joins us live here on Real Talk. Again, folks, like, comment, and share. Takes you a few seconds. It shows your support for fearless independent media here, courtesy of Real Talk on Jersey First TV. John, let's switch gears here to the current Attorney General, Jennifer Davenport, as nominated by the new governor, Mikey Sherrill. It seems like Davenport's just going to pick up, very likely, right where Maddie left off, since he left office on January 20th of this year. Not a minute too soon for me. When the clock struck 12 noon, I was like, good riddance to this beta male that I could not see off my TV screen quick enough. But in any event, it would seem like Davenport's going to be following almost the same methodology under Governor Sherrill. And for someone that supposedly ran as a moderate during the campaign, I mean, just in just a few weeks, we're seeing the new governor takes some pretty far left positions. And, it's interesting. I think you'll appreciate this this comparison here, because I talked to a lot of, left wingers within social circles that watch this show. Like, they claim they hate the show, but they always watch, trust me. And, obviously, whether it's about Second Amendment advocacy here in New Jersey, but, obviously, for example, illegal immigration is a big issue in our radar. Not just in a national level, but here in New Jersey. And it's always interesting when I hear my liberal friends, whether from grad school or in my social circles, talk about, well, Fernando, if there was stricter gun control, hey, if we just ban guns and that just saves one person, well, then it's all worth it. And my response is like, oh, cool. Well, you know what? If we strictly enforce illegal immigration and secure our borders, and if that saves at least one American, well, you know what? Damn it, that's worth it too. It seems like whenever I use that analogy, I get this deer in headlights look, or like, well, it's not the same, Fernando. No, it is. It's just you don't like hearing it. And but not a surprise from progressives who are as paper soft as like that. Like, one thing is buying Charmin, right? Like that really good toilet paper, and then you buy like that really cheap brand, right? Like when you go to like public toilets and it's like awful. Yeah, that's like as paper soft as I could think about when it comes to progressives, whether it's about gun rights, gun advocacy, illegal immigration. In New Jersey, under this next attorney general here, I mean, I don't see any light at the end of the tunnel either.
Well, it's luckily so far what's attracted their attention is just Donald Trump. And I'm like, yeah, you know what, sit there and deal with Donald Trump and don't worry about firearms. You could battle him and we'll all be fine. We'll all get along swimmingly because you're probably going to lose, especially if you look at our courts. New Jersey is situated in a very interesting place. The makeup of the Third Circuit Court of Appeals is majority right of center. So I'm not going to say everything is a shoe-in to go the way of freedom and liberty or pro-Trump or whatever. But if you look at how the court is made up, this is actually going to be, and specifically with firearm-related law, you're going to be seeing a ton of litigation. And I've talked to people openly about this. You can go back and watch interviews that I've had with people from the NRA, Institute of Legislative Action. Joe Greenlee and I spoke last year, and I specifically asked this question about New Jersey. And he says, yeah, we want to bring as much pain, in my words, not his, to New Jersey as possible because they have these awful firearms laws and we have a relatively favorable court, or what we believe to be a relatively favorable court. And after we get this en banc, opinion, whether it's later this year or next year, who knows when it's going to come, I think it's going to be very telling. And that's the same thing with our so-called assault weapons ban. I believe that was also heard en banc as well. So, or if it hasn't been heard en banc yet, it's going to be. And these are all very important cases, and that's going to create circuit splits. And those are things that the U.S. Supreme Court looks for when they take cases. So if you look at like the Third Circuit was traditionally known for their business law primarily because of Delaware. And Delaware has these laws where everybody wants to incorporate their LLCs and their businesses and things like that. So the Third Circuit Court of Appeals was known to be like a business law court. Now I think you're going to see a lot of that change, and you're going to see freedom-oriented challenges, liberty-oriented challenges, firearms, different things, maybe immigration policy. And to your point about the analogies, if it saves one life, if there's no such thing as illegal people, then I say there's no such thing as illegal guns.
I actually like that. I like that. If there's no such thing as, you know what? Delete, note that one down. I like that. That's a great one. I have not heard that counter, folks. You got to give it to our great guest today here, John Petrolino, staunch Second Amendment advocate and a journalist here for that one here, folks. Again on Real Talk Live, like, comment, and share tonight's episode. Really helps the show grow. Simple as that. Here on Jersey First TV. John, you're also a journalist. I can appreciate that. Freelance journalist, whatever you want to call it. I mean, we're independent journalists. It's as simple as that. And what's been your experience? I know you mentioned that, that moment there, having to interact with Maddie Platkin. And so that must have been completely reassuring when, you see someone like him. And it's always interesting about dealing with progressives. It's like they live in their bubble, in their echo chamber. And when they're forced to deal with ideas that are not their own, I mean, they get ruffled quicker than a girl when you ask to see her phone and, and check her Instagram, right? And I always laugh at that. I laugh at the sort of how easily triggered progressives in the left get when it comes to solid, logical, common sense arguments, especially when the law's on your side on this and the Supreme Court has ruled. It's tragic when it comes to states like New York and New Jersey, again, two of the most densely populated states in the country. And all the law-abiding gun owners want to do is just defend their home, their property, their person. And you see these draconian, left-leaning, left-wing, liberal bureaucrats just, again, private security is good for them. The governor can travel with state troopers at all moments. She wants to go to the grocery store, state troopers with her. Don't have to worry about it. She wants to go to MetLife, catch a game or Prudential Center. Great. She's going to have around-the-clock security detail. Yeah, regular New Jerseyans don't have that luxury. Regular New Jerseyans, and again, this is not an indictment of police because where I live, listen, it's a very responsive, very effective police department, as I would say all police departments are. I mean, certainly, there's drawbacks like anything else, distance or anything. But the bottom line is, our men and women in blue do a great job protecting our communities, but there's only so much geography they can cover. And if we can do that and protect ourselves, that's great. We think about states like Florida and others down south with stand your ground laws, right? And obviously those aren't applicable in New Jersey. Kind of makes you wonder. I mean, when it comes to protecting yourselves, your family, and your property, why stand your ground laws aren't more prevalent?
I mean, and that's a great question. But what I want to do is hit the 30 seconds back button a few times here. And you said something that really, stuck out to me about catching people like former Attorney General Matthew Platkin off balance and asking him these questions. Because let's be fair here, or at least honest. Most of the mainstream media or however you want to classify them in New Jersey, you're not talking about a media that's necessarily going to ask questions that are not, I don't want to say just sympathetic towards the Second Amendment or firearms, but even questions that are technical enough because they understand either the law or the mechanics of what's going on. And if you go back to those press events that were going on with Governor Murphy in those years during the pandemic that shall not be named, that's where this whole press credential situation was born. And I think people need to know and understand this. A Second Amendment advocate activist, Alexander Rubian, who's the head of NJ2AS, he would go to those press events and he would ask Murphy questions and keep him completely off balance. He didn't know how to answer them. Now, there's rumors. I'm not saying this is true. It's just rumors that I heard that Murphy had the questions and the answers to all of those press events, and the journalists that were asking him the questions, he already knew the questions in advance, and they just went through this and he basically had everything rehearsed. So Alexander would show up and he was doing reporting for his own brand, NJ2AS. He's also done reporting for AmmoLand News, where I got my start. And he would ask these questions and Governor Murphy would get flustered. And what they basically did is they bounced him. He came back a couple times and they did not allow him to have admittance to the press events because him asking questions was quote unquote disruptive, and he's not a credentialed journalist. So when people say things like, well, you don't need to have a permit to exercise your First Amendment right, guess what? In New Jersey, you do. If you want to be a journalist that gets to interact with the government of New Jersey, there's two organizations in this state the journalists may be a member of so that they can interact with the government on that level. And that is a huge issue. And Alexander, I know, fought this in court and he failed. And I don't know how he failed, but he did fail because this is absolutely patently obscene. And I want people to know that because it was questions from somebody that was just asking questions that had a person that was in power off balance, not used to answering tough questions, that put this in place. That's when the memos came out. You could go back and look them up, Fernando.
No, listen, great point there. And kind of makes me wonder why I keep renewing my credentials with the New Jersey Society of Professional Journalists every year, which, they issue press passes and press credentials. So not to say it doesn't come in handy for me sometimes in some sticky situations or whatever, but that's a really great point, John. And I think it really sheds light on, especially in states like New Jersey, where it's really a one-party state. I mean, I keep telling this to people, and the week after last year's election in November, I had David Wildstein on, the editor of the New Jersey Globe, on, and I talked to Brent Johnson as well from NJ Media. And listen, I'm a staunch, unapologetic conservative. I tend to always vote Republican, at least in my adult life. And I'll tell you, I mean, I felt really deflated last November. I really thought that 2 terms of a very ultra left-wing governor in New Jersey would kind of wake people up, right? Like the highest property taxes in the country. The gas tax went up again, despite the fact that we're drilling domestically. I mean, we're the 4th highest gas tax in the country. And the whole purpose of the gas tax, right, is to fund the Transportation Trust Fund to fix our roads. And by the way, AAA, which is a nonpartisan organization that rates road quality in this country, continues to rate New Jersey in the bottom third, excuse me, of roads in the country. So it's like, where are the revenues coming from the gas tax to road quality? I don't know. The tolls went up again. And it just seems like I thought, well, maybe, you know what? Again, this isn't Monday morning quarterbacking. Yeah, Jack wasn't the best candidate, but I would say, I thought, to use a sports term, I thought the wind was to his back and he could have squeezed it out by a couple of points. He only lost by 3 points. I said he could win by 3 points. And my God, and I felt good up until Labor Day. And then it just all went to shit. And I don't want to sound apocalyptic, John, so try to talk me off the ledge here. I don't think I'll ever see a Republican governor in my adult life again.
All right. So you've totally got me here. So Jack Ciattarelli closed the gap that he had in the election where he lost to Murphy and then some. He closed that gap. Donald Trump, when he ran for president, took more counties than he had previously.
Correct, yeah.
Right?
Did better.
Counties that went to Biden, okay? Where did the extra votes come from? That's what I want to know. I want to know where the votes came from. Where did they come from?
Well, supposedly,
because he closed the gap, Fernando.
Well, supposedly, right, in 2024, Donald Trump came within 4 points of flipping New Jersey, right, for the first time since 1988, when George H.W. Bush was the last Republican to win New Jersey's 14 electoral votes. And, the autopsy supposedly was, well, Democrats weren't inspired, and why would they be, with the word salad queen, Kamala Harris? And that somehow is why New Jersey was as close as it was. And that's why Republicans felt good going into 2025. And, whether it's the optic of the government shutdown, SNAP benefits, we're not going to be getting Medicaid dollars, and that indirectly will help illegals. I mean, you name it. Democrats came up with every talking point possible. And it really, they were gaslighting the abundance of low IQ voters in New Jersey. It's as simple as that.
Something I also saw, and good, bad, or indifferent, we could say whatever we want. I've been a mail-in voter for like 20 years, okay? That's how I voted. And when I go to my polling place, I end up having to fill out like a provisional ballot, generally speaking, because I have a mail-in ballot, right? And sometimes I do that just to make sure. I did not get my ballot this year, okay? And I went to my provisional polling place, and I said, I need to fill out a provisional ballot. And the girl's like, well, what makes you think you need it? I'm like, look, I'm a mail-in voter. Somebody else came in. They're like, no, all right, let's look you up. He says, yep, you're a mail-in voter. You didn't get your ballot. I said, no, this is the first time in my adult life that I never got my ballot. And she said to me, there's a lot of you coming in here to vote provisionally that did not get their ballots in the mail. I'm not saying that weird stuff went on. I'm just saying that a lot of people didn't get their ballots in my county, and this gap was closed by Jack Ciattarelli, good, bad, or indifferent, and all of these other voters came out of the woodwork in a state that people are fleeing in droves. So if somebody could break those numbers down to me, it would be really awesome.
No, listen, you raised great points there. And I've talked to a lot of people after November in sort of providing an autopsy of what went wrong last year, and again, going into, just a year ago at this time, I remember being at Rider University covering the primary debates for both the Republican and Democrat parties collectively, and, going and covering them for the show, doing real talk on the road and doing my post-game analysis. And I said, all right, well, interesting. And then as soon as the first debate happened, I believe in September, at Rider University, I was there. I mean, I was like, wait a second, Jack cleaned your clock. And I said, okay, cool. I get it. There's the vote blue, no matter who crowd is going to be like, well, Trump likes Jack. And I'm like, okay, but you realize that your property taxes are the highest in the country long before Trump was ever president, right? It's always like those talking points that sort of stump people. Well, but Trump. And I'm like, no, but Trump what? Does that pay your your property tax bill, your utility bills that are continuing to
Cost
skyrocket.
of living. Yeah,
Cost of
all
living.
of that.
The fact that we, again, taxpayer dollars subsidize millions of illegals in this state, John, by the amount of, and again, it depends on who you read it from, but I trust Assemblyman Paul Kinitra, great assemblyman down in Monmouth County. We're talking about $7 billion. So when the Empress goes, before the cameras last week, talk about the budget shortfall in New Jersey, well, right now we're looking at a deficit of like, well, yeah, how about maybe like not fund programs for illegals? Like maybe that'll shave down the deficit in New Jersey and help balance the budget in the Garden State, for God's sake.
No, I agree completely. And again, if there's no such thing as illegal people, there's no such thing as illegal guns, right?
I love that.
We're
You know
just
what?
gonna take that and run with that.
Now, do you have a shirt? Because if you don't have one, I'm going to make one. Okay.
If you make a shirt, if you want to toss me a check every so often or a lot of bills, like we'll meet up and have whiskey or something, and you could just kind of like give me an envelope that's all crumpled up or a paper bag. That'd be cool. Like that's pretty New Jersey.
Listen, I think we can work out some sort of compensation here, where maybe like a little percentage. We could do something. You know what I'm saying? But
yeah, absolutely.
But listen, it's again, I look at New Jersey, John, whether it's just being punitive on responsible gun ownership, property ownership. I mean, it's a tough state to live in. And right now, we're seeing sort of the chickens come home to roost, right? Like irresponsible spending. The new governor is saying, we might have to tighten our belts because, hey, that COVID money isn't coming in. And well, again, Trump derangement syndrome is real when it comes to, it's interesting where Trump derangement syndrome seems to affect accounting in Trenton. Like, isn't it fascinating where like, oh, okay, so the state comptroller's office and the treasurer somehow, are equating or including Trump derangement syndrome into their calculations, John. It's a fascinating concept.
Oh, it's incredible. And, love him or hate him, whatever, but I've seen it myself as well. And you be talking to people, and there is that crowd out there that turned into the no matter what, no Trump. And whether they were on the left side or the right side of the divide. And, much like you, I've got friends and colleagues that have all different kinds of political views. I'm very much so a pro-liberty, libertarian leaning type of fellow myself. I want people to have maximum liberties.
Yeah.
If I had to distill my political view, I want everyone to be happy as long as you don't force me to explain your weird stuff to my kid. That's it. That's it.
Well
That's
said,
all
yeah,
I'm
well said,
asking
yeah.
for. So like let me deal with my kid the way that I want to, and educating him. And you do you. Like I'm very happy for you and whatever you want to do, but just, don't do it on my lawn. That's all. It's cool.
Yeah.
We could be friends. We could all be friends. I could be friends with Matt Platkin. If Matt wants to get together and have a drink and a cigar, I've invited him to have a cigar with me more than once. He's not taken me up on that offer yet. I'll sit down and talk to Matt. I've got no problems about it. But the fact of the matter is, it's when other people think that it's their job for their views on liberty is to inflict their will on me, on you, on our children, and everyone else. And that's where there's a problem.
Listen, I'm with you. I would be receptive to having a drink with Matt Platkin. I don't think I would want him defending me in traffic court. I mean, for God's sakes, I don't have a lot of faith in him as an attorney. I mean, I think if I had like a moving violation in municipal court, I think I'd rather represent myself. I mean, for God's sakes, I don't think I trust him to represent me. But I mean,
I'm just saying. Just saying, going on a date with him. I'm not saying you got to make out with him.
No, sure. I mean, the idea that this guy, listen,
right?
It tells you all you need to know when you're the Attorney General of New Jersey or any state. You would think that powerful, lucrative law firms would be bending over backwards to offer this guy a job. The fact that nobody did, and again, you want to open your own business? God bless you. This is a media company here, Fernando Uribe Media. It's a small business, whatever. God bless you. Again,
the one thing I will qualify to this is very interesting, and I don't mean to cut you off. Angela Kai, who was arguing on behalf of the state in that case we were just talking about, the Coons and the Siegel cases, she's the one that was representing New Jersey, left working for New Jersey, resigned to go work for Platkin. So that either tells you that she was so bad that that's where she's got to go, but I don't think she got canned. I think she went. So there's got to be something there. Always use the brain when you're thinking about
Hey,
this.
hey, listen,
He's in the government, and now he's going to be probably getting all kinds of contracts and things that were beneficial to him. And we'll see how the wheels get greased. You know what I'm
no,
saying?
listen, I agree with you. Again, wouldn't shock me if some government contracts went his way of his new law firm. But
Who
again, when you're
knows,
not,
right?
no, you're right. Yeah, it wouldn't shock me with how crooked New Jersey is. It would not shock me in the slightest. But again, I always kind of go back like you're the attorney general. If you're not getting hired by any law firms, that's a red
Sure.
flag, folks. Like that should tell you everything you need to know about like yeah, I don't think I like this attorney working on my payroll. Let him open his office, pick out furniture, and all that. So that's kind of interesting. But Johnny,
Well, maybe the three of us could get together, Fernando.
oh,
Maybe
listen,
we can
I'm
hang
down
out
with
with him.
that. Again,
Yeah.
I'm totally receptive. Again, but if I had a moving violation in traffic court,
No,
I don't think I'd want him representing me. I just don't.
no.
But switching gears here again, it's sort of getting back to your journalist, obviously not advocacy, but certainly the journalistic work you do, for 2026 and beyond. Obviously, the Pen Patriot folks. If you don't follow that page, check it out. Check out John's website as well as his YouTube content. But more so, John, obviously, when it comes to your journalistic work, what do you want to sink your teeth into for the remainder of 2026? Obviously, I know your Second Amendment advocacy is important, but what other aspects do you want to sink your teeth into when it comes to your journalistic talents?
So I've been writing, and it's funny. My writing on the Second Amendment has changed a bit through the years, and it started with, kind of a hard news reporting style, and then I got kind of quickly into opinion writing because it's very easy to write opinion about this stuff because especially in New Jersey, the laws and everything that's going on is so crazy. So it's easy to inflict opinion on there. But I actually changed gears, a couple of years ago. I can't remember exactly when it was, but there was a point in time where one of my editors at Bearing Arms, Cam Edwards, great guy, he told me he's got a light hand when he edits. He doesn't edit me too much. Sometimes I wish he edits me more because sometimes I need that discipline. But that being said, there was a piece that I had written, and he said, John, even if he is, you cannot call the attorney general a bitch in this article. So I have edited that, and what he said to me, what that stuck with me was, you need to look at your work and picture it being read in a courtroom, and it's being read in proceedings, and how is that going to come off, basically, and the subtext here as journalism, and it kind of stuck with me. So I've shifted my gears and have been writing very hard news coverage of almost everything that I do. And I try to leave as little bias, put very little bias in there. And especially on a topic like the Second Amendment, it's very easy to be 0 and 1 digital on it because, the facts are on the side, the information's on our side. So for the rest of 2026, I've got a couple of projects that I'm going to probably continue to cover. 2024 into 2025, a big project that I was working on was covering permit to carry denials and how it relates to race. So, and this garnered me a couple of awards too by the New Jersey Society of Professional Journalists, based on my coverage on the black denial rate and my raw numbers. And this is not as a statistician, mind you, but my raw numbers found that black applicants were getting denied like 2.5 times more than white applicants for permits to carry. But it wasn't for criminal reasons. It was for a subjective standard. So if you look at that Bruin lawsuit that we talked about, removing that subjective standard, we still actually have a subjective standard in our permitting, and it's called this interest of public health, safety, and welfare. And if somebody has the correct temperament to own or carry a firearm, those are the denial criterias that I was looking at, and black people were being denied more than double whites. And this brought on a group that does bias related advocacy work, and they did an independent study. And when they normalized the numbers, they found that blacks are denied 10 times more than whites on a subjective standard. Simply, the police chief can say they don't like that person. So that was a beat that I followed all through 2024 into 2025. 2026, I'm going to continue to track the permitting in New Jersey, the permits to carry. I want to see what's going on there. I'm looking into a couple of other avenues and things that I can't really go too deep into right now because I don't want to spoil it. But that's a lot of the stuff that I'm going to continue to look at is basically general watchdog of New Jersey and what they're doing to citizens and how they're being treated in regards to the Second Amendment. That's basically the beat that I'm going to continue to cover.
Again, folks, great stuff here tonight with my guest, John Petrolino, Second Amendment advocate, and of course, journalist here on the show. Like, comment, and share. Folks, it just takes a few seconds to show your support for Fearless Independent Media here on Jersey First TV. John, before we wrap it up here, a quick lightning round to get to know you, John Petrolino, the guy. We've gotten to know John Petrolino, the Second Amendment advocate, the journalist, the writer. But let's just get to know John, the guy. A quick lightning round here. And we'll start off with some easy stuff here. Some basic guy things here. We'll start with sports first. Baseball fan? If so, what team you follow?
Is that the one with the stick or yeah, I'm not a sports guy.
Okay,
but if I had to put my weight behind somebody, and I say significant weight because my BMI is about my age, I'd say the Yankees. I'm rooting for the Yankees all day, every day. I'm a Yankees guy.
Okay. But you're not much of a sports guy in general, is what you're saying.
No, I'm not. And that's something that I just never got really into. But so the cliche stuff, the Yankees, the Giants, yes. Patriots, no. And something that for the sports people out there, and this is something that I talk about on a journalism perspective, but for the sports analogy here is, Fernando, if the Giants, who's your team? Who's your team that you root for?
Oh, I'm a diehard Dallas Cowboy fan, America's team. So
okay, so let's say the Cowboys are facing off with the Patriots. Who wins?
Well, I'd like to think the Cowboys would win. I hope.
All day, every day, it's the NFL. Just remember that the NFL is the team that wins.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, no, I never really got into sports hard. I was involved in scouts as a kid and writing and things like that. A lot of nerd stuff, to be honest with you.
Okay, listen, that's fascinating. Okay, let's switch gears here then. Comic books in the sense of movie fan, DC or Marvel movies?
I'd say probably Marvel, definitely Marvel. Although I do appreciate an old school Christopher Reeves, Superman,
Yeah. Okay. Favorite Marvel character?
Favorite Marvel character would be Wolverine.
Okay. Were you pleased with last summer's blockbuster of a Deadpool and Wolverine in that movie?
I actually did not see that one yet.
Oh, wow. Okay, well.
You're talking about somebody that is so not into pop culture. It's disgusting.
Sure. Okay. Interesting. Are you now, again, you mentioned you like Marvel movies. Certainly you like Wolverine.
Yep.
I'm not sure when was the last movie in the sense you saw, whether it's the Avengers or within the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but are you excited at all about this coming year? Obviously, we have Avengers Doomsday. We have a Doctor Doom as the villain, the central villain in this film. Apparently 75 characters. Robert Downey Jr. will play Victor Von Doom after really more than 15 years of playing Tony Stark and Iron Man. He's going to be playing Victor Von Doom. Now, again, for us comic book nerds, it's very likely that Victor Von Doom is from a different universe. So the similarities physically to Tony Stark might be explained, but regardless, are you looking forward to the new Avengers movie or the new Spider-Man movie or in general?
Yeah, no, I think that's all going to be cool, and I'll definitely check them all out. And I like it when you have kind of these convergences. So even like you said, the Deadpool, Wolverine, that stuff is very interesting to me. Just like Alien versus Predator, I like it when worlds collide. So that is interesting to me. What will I? What is it going to be enough to take me to the theater? I don't know. The last movie that took me to the theater was the Mario movie. I think that was the last one. And I'm looking forward to the next Mario movie, but maybe that's just because I've got a kid that's of that age range, you know. Um, but I generally catch a lot of stuff on streaming afterwards
Sure.
whenever it becomes available to general population, you know. But I'm just not spending too much extra money on media unless it's something that's really exciting. Well, you know what, we saw the Kong X Godzilla, and that's a couple of years ago too.
Sure.
You know, that drew us to the theaters. Like,
Okay.
so something's got to really, I don't know.
Sure.
We spend a lot of time taking in family entertainment, going to
Sure.
theme parks, like totally weird. I know.
No, actually, you know what? Listen, I'll push back on that. I grew up loving going to amusement parks, going to Six Flags. Listen, I live up here in Hudson County, but nearby in Bergen County, I mean, every summer I can remember going to the Meadowlands Fair. I like it. I liked going.
Sure.
It was always, if I had a girlfriend during the summer, it was a fun thing to do. Try to impress the girlfriend, win her a stuffed animal, whether it be in the basketball shooting contest or the shooting games. I enjoy them. I enjoy a lot of the amusement parks. Now, again, it's been some years since I've been to Six Flags, for example. And again, listen, it's tragic because certainly after the pandemic, I mean, so much was really harmed in the sense of amusement and entertainment for us. Obviously, we're seeing
Yeah.
movie theater chains literally declaring bankruptcy. I mean, obviously that's a sign of the times with streaming. We're not seeing the same foot traffic when it comes to amusement parks nationally, under the Six Flags franchise. So it's tragic, but I mean, I like my fair share of a nice amusement park. And listen, I'm a guy. I'll do stupid things and jump on a ride. And if it goes upside down, I'm okay. I really don't get sick or dizzy, so I'm pretty good with that.
Oh yeah. No, it's funny. I don't want to say I lead a very boring life, but somebody asked me, well, when was the last book that you read for pleasure? And I can't even remember the last thing that I read for pleasure because I'm reading things like legal briefs. I'm reading things like lawsuits. I'm reading things, and it's when it comes to like the Second Amendment stuff, when I tell you it's become all consuming, it's all consuming. Like I had a friend recently just kind of talking to me about this stuff, and he's like, how did you get into this and learn it? And I'm like, I can't really give you an answer other than saying, it's kind of like being a tea bag, just seeping in it for years. And so when it comes to like entertainment, like I try to unplug the best I can, but I watch like a lot of reruns of like television shows that don't cause me to think. I will say though, I'm into Stranger Things. I don't know if you're a Stranger Things fan.
I'm
I'm
no,
just about halfway through season 4.
No, I'm familiar. I started the first season. Again, it was just tough to get into because there's so many other shows to watch. And to be honest with you, like I'm a guy that kind of grew up on some basic things like Law and Order. Like I've been a diehard Law and Order fan for 20 years. I've been watching Law and Order since the inception, then Special Victims, and then Organized Crime.
Sure.
So, having worked in criminal justice for 10 years before transitioning to academia and higher education and now education now and journalism, I was very much a criminal justice aficionado, and I very much enjoy watching, whether it's the CSI shows, the FBI shows. There just isn't enough time in the day to watch shows because I'm working. I'm working on this brand. I'm working on booking guests, reading. To your point, like I read so much in grad school that I'm like, at some point when I could read for pleasure, I actually enjoyed it. I'm like, okay, now I don't have to read this. I want to read this. It's not assigned by my professor. It's like I actually look forward to reading books. I'm a big pro wrestling fan. I love reading wrestling historian books because of such an affinity to have for the industry and for the business. So when I read these books, it's pleasant. It's not just having to read about politics and get ready for an outline for the show and do my research. Like if I could read for pleasure, John, I'm with you. So
Yeah,
definitely.
it's consuming. It's
Yeah.
difficult staying tapped into these things.
Yeah, definitely.
You know?
Let's switch gears here. After a long week, maybe it's not the most stressful thing or stress alleviating thing, but hey, you're home. Maybe the kids are asleep. maybe you're out in the backyard, you have some peace and quiet, whether it's a cigar or what's your beverage of choice to unwind, brother?
So I'm a whiskey guy, so I like the
Same
whiskey
here.
drink.
Same here.
Not so much the vodka drink, definitely the
Sure.
whiskey drink. So I'll take that, either neat, I'll take it neat, I'll take it as a Manhattan, as an old fashioned. And then I'll also scotch. I'll take scotch on the rocks, I'll take scotch
Same
and
here.
soda water, depending on if it's
Sure.
like, well scotch. I'm not going to take, a high end scotch and put it in
Sure.
soda water, but I've been drinking a lot of neat whiskey, actually.
Okay.
maybe
Very nice. Very nice.
more than I probably should be. But if I'm going to order a cocktail, I'm going to look for the signature Manhattan or the signature old fashioned that whoever has. If there's no signature drink, it's going to be Maker's Mark with sweet vermouth. That's my choice.
Okay.
And cigars, I like robust cigars that are 60 rings, that are nice and thick.
Okay.
And maybe that says something. Sometimes a cigar is just a cigar, but I like robust cigars and strong coffee.
Well,
Those
I'll
are
say
my.
this. I'm a big Jameson guy. I don't mind Jameson on the rocks if I'm relaxing at home. I'm a Monte Cristo guy. I don't smoke a lot of cigars. Usually, like maybe on my birthday, and then if I'm catch up with some buddies, we'll go to the cigar lounge down by me where it's right by the river. I can look at Manhattan, have a cigar, watch a ball game on the big screen there in the lounge, and relax. Don't do it as much. I don't smoke in the house because obviously, I can smoke on my porch, which is fine. But a nice Monte Cristo a few times a year doesn't hurt anybody. And I'm a Jameson guy. Believe it or not, I know this might sound a little bougie. I'm a McCagnon guy. A nice McCagnon is on the rocks is pretty relaxing. Now, I do warn people: be careful. Anything more than two, you're asking for trouble. Okay, and nothing good happens when they say nothing good happens after 2 a.m. Nothing good happens after two McCagnons. I'll leave it at that. You know what I'm saying?
Great.
So
Yeah.
definitely. What's your cuisine of choice and any favorite restaurants?
I mean, you don't get like this from not liking food. So it's cuisine of choice. I'd say I love tacos, which ironically, the reason I was a little late logging in tonight was because I was crushing two tacos right before I came down here. So I love Mexican food. That's probably my cuisine of choice, I would say. Yeah.
Okay. But any restaurants specifically?
Restaurants specifically. I, the one restaurant that I absolutely loved has been closed for years was the Raven and the Peach in Rumson.
Okay.
Was a hell of a restaurant, Americana dining, steakhouse-ish kind of place,
Okay.
kind of bougie, that was what we call our sexy dinners. Just because of the point I'm in my life, I find myself at a lot of Texas roadhouses and places like that. And I'd say if I'm going to hit a chain, a Texas roadhouse, I definitely like. There's Juanito's in Red Bank, pretty good restaurant,
Okay.
Mexican. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not too discriminatory when it comes to food. I'll be honest with you.
Okay, good stuff. I mean, listen, I'm not too discriminatory either. I love Italian food. I love Cuban food. If you tell me, hey, Fernando, what's your go-to if you're starving? Cuban food is good for me. Love Spanish food in the sense like Spaniard, tapas.
Yeah.
Great restaurants. I was just at. I'm talk about it during my shout out tonight. Fornos of Spain in Newark in the Ironbound. Amazing service, great pricing, great portions. I'm big into that. Big into Italian food. It's actually kind of funny. You'll appreciate this. In my family, there's a sort of ongoing joke where I love Italian food. Like I love going to a nice restaurant with octopus, grilled octopus. I love a nice, big ziti, stuffed shells, lobster ravioli. I'm big into that. My parents will watch this show and they're probably going to kill me for embarrassing them. We always have this ongoing argument where my parents' idea of good Italian food. Wait for it. And I'm glad you're sitting. No, and I'm glad you're sitting down for this.
Don't even say and the breadsticks. I don't want to hear it.
It's Olive Garden. It drives me mad. And I'm like, do you realize I'm taking you to great Italian restaurants where the sauce is good, where the portions are good, and you know what? come Christmas time, very simple. Fernando, we just want simple gift cards. Olive Garden, you give us $100 gift card to Olive Garden. Me and your dad, my mom's saying this to me. Me and your dad will go maybe a couple trips because they don't drink. They're about the soup. They're about the salad. They're about the breadsticks. They're about the spaghetti. And I'm like, oh my God, it drives me
That's
mad.
hysterical.
It's
Good Italian.
yeah.
Yeah.
And
Good Italian.
mind you,
Yeah.
I've taken them. I'm in Hudson County. I'm right by Hoboken. Okay. There's great Italian restaurants here. And can I tell you, they're like, yeah, I don't like the sauce, or I don't like the octopus, or I don't know about the bread. I want to throw myself out the window and be like, if someone heard you, and I say this joke all the time, it's like, oh, I'll get a random text. Guess where your dad and me are at today for lunch? Olive Garden. I'm like, oh my God, it just drives me wild. But yeah, last thing here, favorite American president and why?
Ooh, that's a tough one. Maybe Ronald Reagan. I can't say anything about Trump right now because we're not done, right? Reagan, and maybe this is just because of nostalgia. If you look back at where we were in America, I feel that he ushered us through an incredible time and brought us into severe prosperity. And and what he was able to do with Russia and his influence there, um, and bringing down the Berlin Wall. I think Ronald Reagan has got to be the top right now. And I don't think that Trump's story is done being written, so it's not fair to put him in the race right now on whether or not he is a favorite president. So we'll just say favorite past presidents that we can look at. I say Ronald Reagan.
Oh, well said. Listen, same here. I just spoke at a Reagan Day brunch over the weekend in Middlesex County. And I'll be talking about that, folks, in just a few minutes. You want to stick around for that during the special comment by the Middlesex County Women's Republican Club. So it was a great event. And, I look back at the 40th president with nothing but fond memories. And no president's perfect. But as the son of a Cuban mother and as the son of a Colombian father, seeing Reagan be instrumental in the eradication of the Soviet Union and communism to a large extent throughout Europe, and watching him as a kid, certainly, and reading about him years later, I look back on Ronald Reagan as 8 great years in this country's history. Again, no president's perfect, but my God, if I could live through 8 years of Obama and 4 years of Joe Biden, I look back on 8 years of Reagan, and so far, 4.5 of Donald Trump. I think I'm doing pretty well in my adult life.
Yeah, no, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. So again, John, I want to thank you for your time. I really appreciate your faith in my brand of media, and certainly you're doing great things. I want to give you the last word here tonight. Once again, thank you. And again, any URLs, social media links you want to let our audience know about, the floor is yours. Give you the last word tonight.
Fernando, thank you so much for having me on. I've been following you for a while, and one of the things that you leave out is that you're probably one of the best jest journalists out there too. You definitely clean up really good. And I think I said your beard was looking on point the other day at that Reagan Day event. Where people can find me is at thepenpatriot.com. And I want to hear from people. I want news tips. I want ideas. I want love mail. I want hate mail. You can email me at john@thepenpatriot.com. And if you look for me on Facebook, it's The Pen Patriot. You'll see my beautiful face there. It's the picture that Fernando has there is in the corner. That's the picture for The Pen Patriot. Just because I want to keep things not simple. If you want to find me on Twitter or X, it's John Petrolino. And if you want to find me on Instagram, it's JPetrolinoii. But if you go to thepenpatriot.com, there's links, I believe, to all my socials there. And when else fails, just email me, john@thepenpatriot.com.
John, I appreciate your time here. I'll be sending you some links later in the evening after everything's uploaded, appropriately later in the show. And I appreciate you sharing. I really appreciate your time, your wealth of information. Maybe sometime this spring and summer, Let's grab a cigar. Let's grab some scotch over there.
Yeah, we're gonna
Summer.
get a couple bottles of whiskey. We'll get 3 cigars and a jug of milk from Matt, and we'll all get together and hang out.
Maybe bring in some cookies, maybe. Who knows?
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
absolutely. But folks, again, he is John Petrolino, staunch Second Amendment advocate and journalist. My guest tonight here on Real Talk. John, again, have a wonderful rest of the spring. Again, it's daylight savings time this Sunday. I got a feeling, especially with the weather hitting 60 degrees, that spring is coming soon. And after this awful winter we've had, I'm looking forward to that. But if I don't talk to you during the spring, certainly happy Easter, happy Memorial Day, and certainly happy Father's Day coming up if we don't talk during the next few weeks and months ahead. But once you're back on the show soon enough, I'll reach out. And again, I appreciate your faith in Fernando Uribe Media and Real Talk, and certainly God bless you with all the great work you do. And we'll talk to you again soon here on Jersey First TV.
Thank you much, sir.
Take care, brother. Have a good night. Folks, good stuff there. John Petrolino, again, staunch Second Amendment advocate and journalist. My guest tonight here on Real Talk. Folks, takes a few seconds. Like, comment, and share tonight's episode of Real Talk here on Jersey First TV. Nice traffic tonight. Nice comment section there. Certainly looking at it right now. Thank you, Elizabeth. Appreciate you always tuning in, sharing the content. We'll have obviously some updated content later this evening. So appreciate you sharing that, and everybody else who tunes in every single week here on the broadcast on Monday nights. And again, when you share the replays during the week on all of your social media platforms. Folks, I can't say enough really how grateful I am to all of you that continue to make this show a success every week here on Jersey First TV. Well, folks, you know what time it is. It's time for final thoughts. Folks, and when I think about the current political climate, I think about the people that genuinely like to make me laugh and provide me with incredible material when it comes to today's political climate, not just on a national level, but here in New Jersey. And folks, there is no shortage of clowns here in New Jersey. And I talk about it quite often, whether it's beta males, soy boys like Joe Amaditis at Montclair State University, whether it's useless journalists or washed up journalists like Tom Moran, Alan Steinberg, right? Charles Style, or lazy journalists, useless ones like Matt Friedman. You have like useless overpaid government employees like Maria Rodriguez and others, right? Useless elected officials like LaMonica MacGyver, who hopefully will be rotting in jail at some point this year. Of course, Anthony Veneri, who, really? It's been like 3 weeks since a blizzard, and now you're using bulldozers to clean up the streets in North Bergen? Jesus. Could you be more useless, Anthony? Never. Don't answer that. It's a rhetorical question. Or other useless people in media, such as Max Pizarro or Jay Lasseter or Bob Hennelly, or useless public officials. Again, Phil Cohen, Ravi Bala. And a new addition to the collage, as you can see there, Joe Quintero. By the way, folks, again, if you invite Joe Quintero to your house, lock the liquor cabinet, because the last thing you want is Joe Quintero, getting any looks at your liquor cabinet. You want to keep that guy away from it. Trust me. Right? Or useless activists like Caleb Burrell and Amy Torres. Folks, again, no shortage of buffoonery here in this collage behind me. But when I think about bad takes and really bad journalists, folks, it's really hard to, mind you, there's some competition here in New Jersey. We have Max Pizarro, we have Bob Hannelly, we have Tom Moran, we have Matt Friedman, we have Charles Style. Folks, there's no shortage of competition when it comes to figuring out who's the most useless journalist out there. But folks, leading the way and consistently, it's always Uncle Dave. David Cruz, who, of course, is home with his own brand of, independent media, if anyone believes that bullshit, right? But it's interesting, folks. Last week, I'm not sure if you had a chance to watch the State of the Union, but it was a wonderful State of the Union by the President of the United States, outlining what I think is how great and how strong the state of our union is. And let me just give you some facts here, because the facts don't care about your feelings, David, or the people you bring on your show, which could just sort of gaslight us and pontificate into needless bullshit. But let's continue on. A secure border, because we didn't have that the last 4 years, and not a peep from Uncle Dave about how wide open the border was with more than 10 million illegals coming into the country. Right? Not one critical episode or editorial or tweet about Joe Biden. But the minute that Donald Trump wants to, again, under his authority by the executive branch, to enforce our sovereignty and protect our borders, somehow now you have a problem with it. When Barack Obama was deporting tens of millions of people, not a word from Uncle Dave. And I don't want to hear this bullshit. Oh, Obama did it more humanely. Bullshit. There were still people in cages. People still died under Obama's immigration policies. So stop the bullshit. Stop the hypocrisy. But then again, it's Uncle Dave. Like, he lives for hypocrisy, right? Interest rates went down. So if you're looking to buy a home, and you would think for someone like Uncle Dave, who lives in a shithole part of Jersey City, you would think you want to live, you want to move out of there. But again, before he got fired from NJ Spotlight News, you would think he was making good money over there recently, before he got fired. Well, interest rates are down, folks. Talk to any realtor. Talk to any mortgage specialist. Interest rates are down. You've seen that with this president. So again, David, you should be rejoicing. Now, again, if you choose not to buy a new home and leave that shithole you live in the south side of Jersey City, I mean, that's on you. Gas prices are down. We're drilling domestically. You would know that in New Jersey because of the gas tax, the fourth highest in the country, right? The fact that ICE is doing its job. But what was really upsetting about the State of the Union last week, and again, no mention by Uncle Dave on this, and to be fair, not really a lot of time spent on it, but you have to listen who he brings on to talk about the State of the Union, folks. And I like Fred Snowflake from Insider NJ, one of the few people I like at Insider NJ, because there aren't a lot of them. Yes, the general manager, Peter Nelia, I'm cool with him. Fred Snowflake. But everybody else, like, freaking sucks at Insider NJ. Max Pizarro, Jay Lasser, John Van Vliet, Bob Henley. I mean, these are useless retards. And I like Fred Snowflake. Okay? Can't say much about the other guy from NJ Advanced Media. But folks, I mean, you want to talk about two lazy mother effers conversing with each other. Folks, you got to love this exchange between Matt Friedman and David Cruz. And check this out. I think you'll appreciate this.
Thanks, Matt. This president just keeps making history, the longest State of the Union ever. It must have felt good to just be a part of it, eh?
Sure. Yeah, I watched the highlights. I'm not going to lie and say I watched the whole thing. I'm not going to spend my, do a 12-hour workday and then oh boy, I can't wait to watch this hour and 45-minute speech or however long it was.
Folks, who in their right mind is going to believe that this lazy retard, Matt Friedman, works a 12-hour day? Este huevón, if he works 12 hours a week, that's an effing miracle. Okay? Matty, who are you kidding? And again, shout out to you. You actually combed your hair. You shaved. You actually look like you don't live under a bridge, or you don't look like a meth addict wandering the streets of Trenton, right? Or Patterson, or Newark, or Elizabeth, or New Brunswick, right? Or Newark, right? Who is going to believe that a lazy bastard like Matt Friedman works 12-hour days? This pothead doesn't get up until 10 in the morning. So you're telling me he's working until 10 o'clock at night? Folks, qué manera de comer mierda. Qué mentiroso, but what a liar, Matt Friedman. But just check out this, again, a garbage take from Matt Friedman. Color me surprised.
Sorry, it's just not what I'm going to do with the little free time that I do have. So, but yeah.
No, I get it. I mean, you have like 7 cats to feed, and let's be fair. I mean, that's the only pussy around the house that can stand to be near you, because I'm sure your wife spends all her time at a bookstore. And why not? Like, imagine coming home to this.
It seems like, standard, nothing revolutionary came from this speech. If you like Trump, you like the speech. If you didn't, same as usual.
So, I mean, it's just going to dissolve, I guess, like most State of the Unions. I guess it gets a few days of press coverage, and then it's really like it never happened. Fred, yeah?
Yes, I think things have changed. I mean, Matt kind of touched on it. I think everything is so polarized. I'm sure that most of the people who watch the speech the entire 2 hours tend to be Republicans or at least conservatives. They were fans of Donald Trump. And the people who dislike Donald Trump didn't watch it all. So in a way, in a way he was speaking to the converted. So that's why I don't think it's going to have. I mean, this is true when Joe Biden was giving a State of the Union too. I mean, it doesn't really move the needle one way or the other.
And I think that's why you saw with these snap polls that showed something
Yeah.
like 65% like the speech. It's because you're already starting with that,
Yes, absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and folks, and what's interesting about again, I'm still laughing about Matt Freeman 12-hour workdays. Like, who believes this bullshit? Like, give me a break. Like, no one believes this nonsense, right? But of course, during the speech, and you would think that Uncle Dave would have, mind you, and there's a lot of words he struggles with, but there's one word I know that Uncle Dave struggles with a lot, and that's integrity. You think he'd have the integrity to talk about how partisan it was? Even unnecessarily. Folks, who thinks it was just a shitty display by Democrats sitting in Congress that when the U.S. men's hockey team came out and defeated Canada in overtime to win the men's Olympic gold medal for the first time since 1980, right? Back in 1980, the Miracle Team. Back in 1980 when Uncle Dave was like, I don't know, 40. Okay, and he watched the men's Olympic hockey team in 1980 when he was 40 years old, right? 46 years later, he sees him win another one. You think that Democrats should be up applauding that? Of course not. Or a young lady who, because of the recklessness of an illegal driving, unfortunately, with a driver's license that he shouldn't have gotten in the first place, guess what? She was almost killed by an illegal. Or the idea that, guess what? Whether it is the parents of Laken Riley and other angel families at the White House the day before, or the mother and father of a Ukrainian immigrant brutally murdered because, again, of bad cash bail laws in states like North Carolina and around the country. Democrats in Congress there, shout out to John Fetterman, the senator from Pennsylvania. But many Democrats just sat there, classless, without any sort of decorum. And you saw that, folks. I mean, you saw that on full display last week. You saw it from disgusting terrorist sympathizers like Rashida Tlaib, who I'm sure had a bad weekend since a lot of her friends in Iran were killed over the weekend. So I'm sure Rashida Tlaib must have been, no one's heard from her. She must be depressed and in mourning, right? Or other crooked politicians like, I don't know, like Ilhan Omar. And we're seeing all the corruption and horrible business practices in the state of Minnesota that involves her community, right? Folks, again, you import the third world, you see what happens. That's what is occurring in real time. But my favorite one, during the during the State of the Union was obviously, Representative Tim McBride. This is a guy, folks. This is not a woman. Quote, I felt uncomfortable and disrespected as a woman at Trump's State of the Union. First of all, folks, this is a man. This is not a woman. No amount of make-believe or makeup or dress up is going to change the fact that this guy has a penis, not a vagina. No amount of letting your hair grow out or wearing makeup or whatever other trans bullshit you want to try to push on us. Folks, this is a man. It's an insult to biological women. Biological human females, women that menstruate, women that have a uterus, that have a vagina. This guy doesn't have any of that stuff. So, but again, folks, this is the level of buffoonery and clown displays that we see during the State of the Union. Okay? Seeing the crime rate at its lowest nationally in quite some time. Gee, I don't know. Maybe does the fact that we're going into multiple cities around this country and rounding up dangerous illegals, maybe that has something to do with the crime rate down, David? I don't know. Maybe we want to talk about that. But no, of course, you'd rather virtue signal because you live on that. All right, folks? But that's where we're at. Or here's the good one. Having useless former elected officials, which, by the way, folks, if you want to think about reasons why New Jersey has the highest property taxes in the country, why the gas tax went up, right? Why, I don't know, tolls on the Parkway and Turnpike went up in recent years, why the budget continued to get fatter than Uncle Dave, right? You can thank useless bureaucrats.
Hello,
Like this.
how nice to see you, David.
It's good to see you. So you're still a Democrat, right?
I still am a Democrat, and that's the way I will end whatever years I have left as
Going
a
all the way.
Democrat.
All right. I want to talk about the party in this segment, but let's start off with the State of the Union. Do you stay?
And mind you, when esta vieja, that she's about 98 years old right now, and she had to sit through Joe Biden's State of the Unions, which were complete bullshit, not a peep out of this fossil, but these are the people that Uncle Dave invites on the program and thinks that are credible. But go figure.
Up that late anymore, or do you catch it at 6 a.m. like I do?
No, actually, I stay up very late. But then again, I sleep a little later in the morning, so I confess.
I mean, what else do you have to do with your time, Loretta? I mean, you raised our taxes enough. You voted on every tax hike possible. So, I mean, what else do you have to do with your time?
To that. So yes, I am still a night owl.
Wow.
And yes, I stayed up for the whole speech, not for all the commentary afterwards,
Yeah.
as people told us what we should be thinking about it in various channels, but I made it through the whole speech. It was,
I don't know how. I mean, this woman, this is bullshit too. Esta vieja se dormía within the first 10 minutes. I mean, don't buy the bullshit. Don't buy the bullshit.
long, it was boring.
Oh, really? So the other State of the Unions by Joe Biden and the deporter in chief Barack Obama, what? They were titillating? Were people like perpetually erect the entire time? I mean, I'm curious, Loretta.
Was delivered in particularly the last three quarters, I guess, in a monotone voice.
How would you know the last 3 quarters? You were asleep. I don't understand. Like, stop lying.
That if you had insomnia, it could have put you to sleep.
So
I mean, this segment by Uncle Dave and Loretta Weinberg could put you to sleep, and never mind the State of the Union, if we're being fair about it.
felt like every second of that hour and 48 minutes is what you're saying.
Yeah, I think other people commented on this. The first part of the speech, he sounded a little bit animated for him, but the rest of it was in that dull monotone.
When he
Although
reads,
I will comment, it didn't appear that he went off script very much, which is what we usually expect from him. So he must have been given very particular instructions about following what was on his video monitor. And
talking about the state of our union being strong, interest rates being down, Loretta, the fact that our border was closed, the fact you didn't have a peep to say when Joe Biden was letting tens of millions of illegals into the country, the fact that a lot of them live here in New Jersey, that taxpayer dollars are subsidizing healthcare, overcrowding our schools because of all these anchor babies that illegals bring in. But not a word from Loretta Weinberg or David Cruz on this. Again, that will require both these people, that between them collectively, I mean, we're talking about 175 years of life. You think they would have a little more, integrity? Nah, keep wishing on that one.
it seemed to me, at least, that he didn't go off script very often.
we just talked to Christine Hanlon. She's the Republican chair here, as you know, about the tone of the State of the Union nowadays. I mean, that sounded like an angrier version of the prime minister's questions in Parliament, the yelling and the heckling. Is that good or bad, do you think?
Funny that you brought that up, because that used to be one of my husband's favorite programs, watching
questions
on Sunday evening.
Yeah.
Not knowing that it was a preamble to what we were going to have here.
Meanwhile, the guy continues to pay dividends for Democrats in New Jersey. I mean,
well, I mean, again, that's sort of a very subjective type of interpretation there. But again, folks, like, it's important to remember, and again, this is where Uncle Dave, continues to disappoint us because, God forbid he could ever be somewhat, objective. But it wasn't theatrical. It wasn't semantics, folks. It was a very simple question asked by the president last week. And you know what? You would think Uncle Dave would talk about, since he likes to admonish people. David, why don't you admonish the left or progressives that couldn't even stand up for one basic principle? What was that? Oh, it was this.
With this statement, then stand up and show your support. The first duty of the American government is to protect American citizens, not illegal aliens.
Folks, that tells you everything you need to know about today's modern Democrat Party and progressives in the left. You couldn't even stand up when your first and foremost responsibility is to protect Americans, to look out for Americans, not illegals. Someone should tell it to Uncle Dave. And I know he likes to virtue signal, and he loves, and he, I'm sure his dick gets perpetually erect if he can see it. I mean, I doubt he can. But, about having on all these activists and all these left-wingers and progressives that, F ICE and abolish ICE. No, folks, this is why you can't take Uncle Dave seriously. When something as simple as the State of the Union address, when something as simple as like, hey, there are just some things that are nonpartisan where people should stand up anyway. Uncle Dave is quick to admonish conservatives and Republicans or, people that, identify as right-leaning. Uncle Dave is the first one para tiki-tiki y para castigarte and to admonish you. Never once does this useless journalist, and I use that term loosely because Uncle Dave's been a propagandist for as long as I can remember. Okay? You would think he'd have a little more integrity and call balls and strikes fairly. Nah, folks, that's not who Uncle Dave is. Because when I think of Uncle Dave, and again, notwithstanding Fred Snowflake or Jelani, I think Jelani, whatever his name is, again, some good guests. And mind you, he has some good guests on during his version of Reporters Roundtable because he can't host it anymore on NG Spotlight News because his sorry ass got fired. But when he has Brent Johnson on, good guest, Fred Snowflake, good guy, right? Jelani, fine. Folks, when you have clowns like Matt Freeman and Charles Stile, I mean, folks, whether it was Reporters Roundtable before or what's called Press Corps now, folks, very simple. You know what's coming on Fridays. Yeah, folks. I mean, that's essentially the best way to describe David Cruz's content. But more importantly, when it comes to the usual bad takes we get from Uncle Dave, folks, he never disappoints because you know what's coming.
No. Show, clown, show. Say it with me, Mike. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. Clown show. It's a clown show.
I mean, folks, that's what it is. It's Uncle Dave. And when you think of Uncle Dave, it is a clown show. But then again, when isn't it? And those are my final thoughts. Folks, special comment tonight. And again, very simply, over the weekend, I had the privilege of being invited by the Middlesex County Republican Women's Club to their annual Reagan Day brunch down in Monroe, New Jersey at the Forest Gate Country Club. Folks, wonderful venue, beautiful, and just great to be there. Just absolutely great to be there. early on getting there. And again, I was able to get my seat there and right in the very front. And folks, again, I was asked to give a speech to address the crowd, along with some great candidates that are running for office, both in House races and U.S. Senate seat right now, and other advocates and activists in New Jersey. I do want to thank, obviously, the great ladies that oversee the Middlesex County Republican Women's Club, Tanya, Sue, and everyone else that organized this great event. Thank you, ladies, for thinking of me, and thank you for inviting me to Middlesex County. And, I like to dress up, and, folks, I mean, again, it's the most handsome face that runs the place. You have to give me an excuse to dress up and look sharp. Again, I want to always thank Express for keeping me sharp when I go to all these events. So again, a shout out and a special thank you to the Middlesex County Republican Women's Club for the invitation to the Reagan Day brunch. And again, folks, when we think about the 40th president, I look back with nothing but reverence. I look back at really a different time in a different country. In a time where being proud to be an American was a good thing, as Reagan would always say. About the belief in the nuclear family and strong American values and love of country. These are all things, folks, that we can appreciate about Ronald Reagan. And no president is perfect, and certainly we can dissect where every administration has its attributes and its flaws. When I look back, and I was a kid, I don't remember much about Ronald Reagan, but I can tell you, whether it's reading books about him or watching him on YouTube in his speeches, folks, we're lucky to be alive if we were able to see Ronald Reagan be the president of the United States. So once again, a special thank you to the Middlesex County Republican Women's Club for the invitation this past weekend. And certainly it was a privilege to be there interacting with so many patriots. And again, folks, if you have not caught my speech, you can check it out. It's on my Instagram in its entirety. It's 10 minutes, but folks, it's definitely worth watching. It's also on my Facebook. I'll be putting it up on my Twitter later on tonight. But check it out, folks. You won't be disappointed by your favorite broadcast journalists, and not just talking about the importance of Reagan, but what we can do to fight back against the stain of liberalism and progressives that are really ruining New Jersey and ruining the country. Again, as I said, let's dedicate our efforts in Ronald Reagan's name to stand up against this evil. And I'm happy to do that. Folks, and that's my special comment. And a shout outs, a new segment here on the show, folks. Some shout outs real quick here as we're about to wrap up here on the program. Again, like, comment, and share tonight's episode. I appreciate that. And folks, I can't say it enough really because we talk about it here, but a shout out to all of you for helping make Real Talk with Fernando Uribe yet another success in the month of February. 90,000+ views and counting. All organic, folks. Nothing's boosted. No ads. Nothing's paid for. It's all organic on Facebook, Instagram, X, and YouTube. And I appreciate you making this a part of your Monday night viewing and certainly sharing it and reminding everybody that you believe in my brand of fearless, independent media. And folks, nobody does it better than Real Talk via Jersey First TV. I'm deeply humbled, folks. And I'm not the most humble guy around, but I'm deeply humbled by your support. And for all the haters out there, whether it's people in the collage who watch the show or other useless idiots and retards locally that still watch the program. Folks, you might want to go to CVS or Walgreens and get some ointment for that burn because, damn, it's got to burn you to know that Fernando Uribe continues to succeed. Folks, let's continue with some shout outs here. Obviously, and always remember, like, comment, and share the show. Make sure you like us on Facebook. Of course, follow us on Instagram and X. Subscribe to us on YouTube. And of course, whether you get your podcast on Spotify or SoundCloud, download us and take us with you anywhere at any time. Trust me, you won't be disappointed. Of course, folks, I'm always leading the way here with Real Talk via Jersey First TV. Again, brand new episodes air every Monday night. I would appreciate you sharing it on all of your social media platforms. And again, just as a shout out here, let's continue on. Folks, the Pinnacle out and about on Saturday. A shout out to the Dean, the big man. This past Saturday night, the Pinnacle of Hudson County Dante Lupo, John Robert Hines, excuse me. Robert Astudillo, Danny Uribe, and yours truly, the Pinnacle, the Drip Kings, folks. Folks, our suits, trust me, we clean up well. That's all there is to it. But shout out to Foreigners of Spain in Newark. Wonderful establishment. I can't say enough. Wonderful prices, amazing service, just an incredible atmosphere. Shout out to the ownership and the management at Foreigners of Spain. A great birthday dinner for Dante Lupo there this past Saturday. And folks, if you're ever looking to take out that special woman in your life or special guy in your life, or go for a family dinner, birthday, anniversary, communion, bar mitzvah, wherever, folks, check out Foreigners of Spain in Newark, New Jersey in the Ironbound section. Plenty of parking available in the back, affordable prices, great portions, and most importantly, folks, delicious food. And for someone like me that loves to eat, trust me, you'll never be disappointed at Foreigners of Spain in the Ironbound section of Newark, New Jersey. Once again, shout out to the Pinnacle, out and about on Saturday night to celebrate Dante Lupo's birthday. And of course, speaking about Saturday night and celebrating, folks, a shout out to Birch in Hoboken, a wonderful establishment. Shout out to Adam, the manager there, taking care of us upon arriving, folks. As you can see, great looking staff, great looking crowd. I can't say enough, ladies and gentlemen, about what a great venue Birch is. So if you're looking to maybe venture out, try something new on a weekend, and you are in the Mile Square City of Hoboken, folks, trust me when I tell you, Birch, Hoboken, right on River Street. Let me tell you something, definitely worth checking out. Once again, I want to thank the manager and the staff there for their warm hospitality, for the Pinnacle visiting Birch, Hoboken this past weekend. And don't you worry, we'll be making a return trip again soon. It's definitely a venue to check out. Make sure you like them on Facebook. Of course, follow them on Instagram also. And trust me, folks, you'll never be disappointed going to Birch in Hoboken. Great shout out to them, certainly. And again, another shout out to the Hudson County STEM Showcase today. Folks, yeah, the generational talent had a busy weekend and a busy start of the week. Today at Liberty Science Center, I want to thank all the great staff there organizing the Hudson County STEM Showcase. Folks, what a privilege it was to interact with great students today on a plethora of wonderful projects in the fields of STEM. And these are great young men and women, folks. Let me tell you something. The future's bright with the brilliance that I saw from all these great students at the Hudson County STEM Showcase at the Liberty Science Center today. This is my third year judging consecutively. And again, I appreciate it. I appreciate all the great feedback on social media about the Hudson County STEM Showcase. And certainly I look forward to hopefully being a judge again next year at the Liberty Science Center. Folks, I'll tell you, great job by these parents with their kids, brilliant young men and women in the fields of science, technology, engineering, and math. Let me tell you, future's bright, folks, with these great kids at Hudson County high schools and even elementary schools throughout the entire county, whether it's in Jersey City, Union City, North Bergen, Bayonne, you name it, folks. Great students, great STEM showcase at a great venue, the Liberty Science Center. So shout out to them and a great event today during the 2026 Hudson County STEM Showcase. So it's always a great time there to attend, interact, and mingle with other professionals that really enjoy judging as much as I do every single March at the Liberty Science Center. Folks, before I call it an evening here, last shout out for the week. It is March, so it's Women's History Month, right? So shout out to all the important ladies out there, as I said all the time. My mom, my aunt, my bestie out there, okay? Other great female friends I have. Shout out to all the ladies during Women's History Month. But more importantly, this coming Saturday, it is Happy International Women's Day. And I on behalf of, and folks, this is all in good fun, so chill the F out. Don't get triggered so easily, okay? But again, I can't think of a better way to send a shout out to all the ladies out there during International Women's Day this Saturday. Folks, am I wrong? But in all seriousness, shout out to all the ladies during International Women's Day. You all make a difference for us. Sometimes you're a pain, more than likely, more times than not. But you occupy an important presence in our lives. So shout out to all of you. Happy International Women's Day. You know, women, real women, you know, women with a uterus, with a vagina, with ovaries, you know, biological human females, real women, not bullshit trans women. Those aren't women. Those are men. Okay. Again, shout out to all the women, the biological women during Women's History Month. And more importantly, this Sunday during International Women's Day. Shout out to all the biological human females this Sunday. And that's our show for this week. Folks, I want to thank John Petrolino, Second Amendment advocate and journalist, tonight for a wonderful episode. Folks, I can't say enough about, quite frankly, what a difference it makes here on the program. Again, as I mentioned before, don't forget, folks, like, comment, and share tonight's episode. And, of course, follow us on Instagram and X, like us on Facebook, and, of course, subscribe to us on YouTube. And don't forget to download our great content from Spotify or SoundCloud. Makes a difference, folks. Helps the show grow and show your support for fearless independent media here on Jersey First TV. And always remember, folks, if it's unbiased, unfiltered, and unafraid, it's real talk right here on the Jersey First Television Network. I am the generational talent in Garden State Media, and certainly your leader for trustworthy, fearless opinion journalism. That's right, folks. It's me, Fernando Uribe. Please party responsibly. Don't forget, folks, next Sunday, set your clocks forward. Remember, it's spring forward. We lose an hour of sleep. I know it sucks, but we'll see daylight a little bit longer. So again, set your clocks accordingly. And we'll see you next Monday night, folks. Again, a special episode coming up. We'll have the Honorable and Distinguished President of New Jersey City University, Andres Acebo, joins us live next week. You don't want to miss on that. So mark it on your calendars, folks. And we'll see you next week, next Monday night. Please party responsibly. Thanks for stopping by. And always remember, stay classy, everyone.